Viksit Bharat Ecosystem. There's a lot of layers within this name itself, but as today we've spoken about the future, we've spoken about EVs, we've spoken about battery. Kavita, I would like to start with you. Battery management systems and battery manufacturing is definitely at the epicenter of whatever we do going forward. So what do you think India needs to do to be globally competitive in this space?
All right. First of all, thank you for inviting for this discussion. It's a pleasure to be sitting with the esteemed panel members. When we are talking about the EV technology and we talked about the battery management system and other electronics components, certainly they come at the center of the EV vehicle actually, right? While we are talking about the battery management system in context to the batteries, and lot is involving and evolving with respect to the chemistries, with respect to the cell technology. See what can bring India into the global competitiveness is how actually the batteries are being engineered, managed, and put it in the vehicles, right? That's where battery management systems, they play a very crucial role, because what we at Maxwell Energy Systems also, which is the 100% subsidiary of Endurance Technologies, what we ensure that we create an intelligence layer around the batteries so that we assure the safety, reliability, and the real-time performance. So it is very crucial to invest into the R&D technologies of these important electronic systems, and also bring the R&D in-house within India, because what is happening right now that we are actually integrating the imported technologies, and most of the EV system is right now dependent on the lot of imported components as well as the technology, and having these IPs in-house within India and investing on the R&D side, that is something which will bring us into the global leadership and this global competitiveness. Also, it becomes very important that the supply chain, which is right now making us more dependent, how we can actually encourage the lot of startups ecosystem within India, where we can talk about how we can reinvent the components, how we can talk about the second life of the EV vehicles and the batteries, recycling. So all these things are very important. We are at a very important step right now into the EV technology side, but there is a way to go, and developing, I mean, right from the design till manufacturing, if the important EV components can be done in-house, that is where we can have a pivotal positioning in the India itself. That's my take.
Thank you. So, Uday, you also have a large setup for manufacturing a lot of the vehicles that we see on the road. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think localization is the key to having a Viksit Bharat ecosystem in the future?
Well, first of all, really glad to be here, and thank you, Times Drive, to put such great events. Look, I think, first of all, what I want to say is, where we are today with, we've been in this game now for almost a decade, almost 8 years since I got involved in green energy sustainability. We put about 25,000 vehicles on the ground already across this country and a lot more internationally. I think what's important is that clearly in the two-wheelers, the three-wheelers, and the one-ton trucks, I think the TCO model works. And unfortunately, we're in an environment where Mr. President is going to play games all across this world, and we're going to see high energy prices. I think when you talk about being local, and I want to talk about this because this extremely, extremely important subject is, we need to be energy independent. In India, we're primarily, I don't know how much, you know me, I speak my mind. We are very reactive, right? We know that importing cells from China, or we're going to import magnets from China. Why are we so reactive? Why are we not proactive, right? And at the end of the day, where oil prices, I spent 30 years in the US and Europe, I was a big commodity trader, oil is going to stay high. Right? So the total cost ownership model for these vehicles, more and more EV and alternate energy is going to come into play because the total cost ownership model works. On top of that, obviously, great to see the government of Delhi say in 2027 it's going to be all three-wheelers, and in 2028 it's only going to be two-wheelers EV. So that's a really, really big push. Localization is extremely important. Now, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We've got to make sure that we have enough alliances, but we've got to make sure that, whether it's BMS, whether it's batteries, whether it's technology, whether it's powertrains, motors, we have the capabilities to be able to not be so dependent of importing. Look, I mean, Mr. President tells us, going to make America great again. Well, we've got to make India, continuously great. So having control over the supply chain, having control over all of this is an extremely important, and how are we going to be able to make EVs or alternatives? We have to have scale. It's clearly, anybody comes up to me and says, I've got this idea. My only thing is, can you scale it up? Because if only you'll be able to scale it up, you're going to be able to get a positive pat, right? You can't burn money and just keep building businesses. So you're absolutely right. Manufacturing has to be smart, technology-oriented. The world is changing, and localization is extremely important, in my view.
Talking about ownership, you're very active in the shared mobility space. Where do you see that going, and do you think it's making a difference today? Do you think you've got a longer road to go ahead, or do you think we are on a good path in the coming future?
First of all, thanks for inviting Trev to this elite platform. We are just a 2-year-old company, and just talking about your question, definitely smart and shared mobility will move the India for the next decade, right? So let me break this down into 2 role plays. At one segment you have the first and the last mile issue, which is still persistent, in metros and non-metros, very, very evidently, right? So while the government has invested a lot in building your metros and your bus networks and all, but that shared mobility, let it be EV cabs, let it be ride-hailing companies, or let it be micro mobility players, they have to fill in that gap, right? And on the other segment of it, people are really moving towards an experience-led mobility because, mobility in India has matured a lot, but still, that core experience is missing. Like a car with a user, a personal car, 80% of the time it's like idle in a garage, right? And people actually are not getting a very dependable and a reliable service. So at Trev, I can share some trends that approximately 60% of our rides are pre-planned. So people are okay to get into a pre-planned kind of a model if they are getting reliability and a good experience. And lately we have also seen that surge in kind of a recurring ride that, okay, I have to go to office every day. It's a very kind of a daily kind of a routine, and can you just set it up for the entire month? So all in all, I would say that, all things have to move ahead, and we have to change the way the mobility is working in India.